All right, thank you, everybody. My name is Brock Page, and I do free sports picks right here on YouTube. Happy Sunday to you. Hopefully, you're having a great weekend. And if you really end up enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing the like button. And if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please feel free to do that right now as well. I greatly appreciate it. And with that, guys, we got ourselves a kind of a modified slate of NBA action here. Not a whole lot of games, but definitely a few games of interest here. So let's go ahead and dive into it. It's all queued up, ready to go on the big screen behind me. And our first game, it is going to be Clippers versus the Knicks. And that's going to be a 1 p.m. Eastern tip-off in New York. The LA Clippers are minus 7.5 on the road. Totals 213, juice to the under. And if you like the Knicks in an upset at home here, they're plus 280 on the money line. Now, the Knicks have lost 3 out of their last 4 ball games. They're actually dead last in the NBA in scoring on average per game. The Knicks are also scoring just 101 points per contest, and they also rank in the bottom 10 in home defensive rebounding. Reggie Bullock is questionable for New York here today. The Knicks are taking on a Clipper team who's won 9 out of their last 10 ball games. And they also find themselves covering 70% of their contests on the road. The Clippers lead the NBA in free throw percentage, and they also find themselves draining 42% of their three-pointers on the road, which also leads the NBA. Kawhi Leonard is scoring 26 points a game along with 5 rebounds, 6 assists. The NBA champ is also averaging 2 steals a game and also makes 91% of his free throws. Meanwhile, Paul George is scoring 24 points a game himself, along with 6 boards and 5 assists. The Lakers are in the top 3, the Clippers are in the top 3 in road points allowed, top 3 in road defensive rebounding. The Clippers also allow just 104 points a game when they travel. Now, total-wise, 3 out of LA's last 4 stayed under the posted number. 5 out of the Knicks' last 7 stayed under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the LA Clippers, minus 7.5. and the under 213. Next matchup, it is going to be Jazz versus the Nuggets, and that's going to be a 3:30 p.m. Eastern start time in Denver. The Denver Nuggets are minus 1.5, totals 220 and a hook. Now, the Nuggets are just 4-5 straight up at home this season, and they covered the number in just 33% of those contests. The Nuggets are in the bottom 10 in shooting the 3 ball at home, and they find themselves giving up 113 points a night at the Ball Arena. Jamal Murray's questionable. P.J. Dozier is out. They're taking on a Utah team who's on a red-hot 11-game winning streak, and they successfully covered the point spread in all 11 of those victories. There's a lot of wealthy Jazz fans out there right now who have been backing Utah. Now, the Jazz are also covering in 67% of their road games, and they posted a record of 7-2 straight up when they travel. Utah leads the NBA in offensive rebounding, and they also drain 41% of their 3 balls on the road. Jordan Clarkson scoring 18 points a game off the bench, 5 rebounds and a couple assists for the role player. Meanwhile, Mike Conley scoring 17 a night himself, along with 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and a couple of blocks. Now keep an eye on Donovan Mitchell, as he's been listed as questionable for today's action. But regardless of whether Mitchell plays or not, the Jazz are giving up just 105 points per contest, and they rank in the top 5 in defensive rebounding. Now, total-wise, 3 out of Utah's last 5 ball games got over the total, throwing out their most recent game with Dallas. The Jazz also went 6-3 to the over in their last 9 meetings with Denver. And speaking of Denver, they're 5-1 to the over in their last 6 themselves, 6-3 to the over on their home court. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Utah Jazz plus 1.5 and the over 220 and a hook. All right, next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Nets versus the Wizards, 7 p.m. Eastern start time. Now, the Nets are minus 7.5, numbers 245 and a hook. Brooklyn's on a 4-game winning streak, 8-2 straight up in their last 10. They lead the NBA in scoring and field goal percentage. They're actually scoring 123 points a night when they travel. Kevin Durant scoring 31 a game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving scoring 28 a night as well, along with 5 rebounds and 6 assists himself. The Nets are in the top 3 in shooting the 3 ball. Now they're taking on a Washington team who's on a 4-game losing streak, and they also lost 7 out of their last 8. Now the Wizards are just 1-6 straight up on their home court, and they give up over 121 points a night on their home court as well. Now Washington is also allowing their opponents to make 49% of their field goals, and when it comes to the total in this one, the Wizards are 71% to the over at home. Brooklyn is 75% to the over when they travel. I'm going to lean toward the Brooklyn Nets minus 7.5 and the over 245 and a hook. Next contest, it is going to be Sixers versus the Pacers, 7 p.m. Eastern tip-off. Now the Sixers are the 2.5-point favorite on the road here. Numbers 225 flat. And if you like the Pacers in an upset at home here, they're plus $1.10 for some money line cash. Now the Pacers are in the top 10 in offensive field goal percentage, top 10 in first quarter scoring. Malcolm Brogdon scoring 23 points a game for Indy, 4 rebounds, 7 assists for the starting point guard. Meanwhile, Domantas Sabonis is scoring 21 points a night himself, along with 12 rebounds and 6 assists. Now they're taking on a Philadelphia squad who's covering just 33% of their road games, and they also score just 106 points a night when they travel. Now Mike Scott's still out. Joel Embiid is questionable. The Sixers are in the bottom 10 in defensive rebounding on the road as well. Now total-wise, Philadelphia's last 2 straight both stayed under the number. They are also 6-3 to the under away from home. Meanwhile, the Pacers saw 8 out of their last 10 meetings with Philly stay under the line themselves. So with all that said and done, we're going to lean toward yet another underdog. Give me the underdog Indiana Pacers plus 2.5 and the under 225. Next contest, it is going to be Magic versus the Raptors, 7 p.m. Eastern start time in Tampa. The Toronto Raptors are minus 6, totals 221. Now, Toronto is on a 3-game losing streak, just 3-6 against the spread in their last 9. They're also in the bottom 3 in the association in offensive rebounding, bottom 3 in offensive field goal percentage at home. Now the Raptors successfully covered the number in just 30% of their home games as well. Powell is questionable, Anunoby is out. They're taking on an Orlando squad who, despite their recent struggles, they actually still rank in the top 10 in offensive rebounding. The Magic's also making 79% of their free throws on the road, and they rank in the top 3 in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring on the road as well. Nick Vucevic is scoring 23 points a game for Orlando, 11 boards and 4 assists a night for the 6'11 center. Meanwhile, Evan Fournier is scoring 18 points a game himself, along with a couple of boards and 4 assists. And when it comes to the total on this one, 4 out of Orlando's last 7 stayed under the line. They're also 70% to the under in their last 10 meetings with the Raptors. And speaking of the Raps, they saw 5 out of their last 7 stay under the line themselves. 60% to the under this season at the Amalie Arena. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Magic plus 6 and the under 221. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Cavaliers versus the Timberwolves. And that particular matchup is going to be an 8 p.m. Eastern start time. Now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are minus 3 on the road, totals 218.5. Cleveland's covered in 5 out of their last 7 ball games. They're also in the top 10 in the NBA in points allowed on the road. The Cavaliers are allowing just 107 points a night when they travel. Colin Sexton scores 25 points a game along with 3 boards and 4 assists. Meanwhile, center Andre Drummond also averages 15 big rebounds a night, along with 18 total points and a pair of steals. They're taking on a Minnesota team who's on a 3-game losing streak themselves, and they also dropped 7 out of their last 8. Now, the Timberwolves are in the bottom 5 in the NBA in scoring. They're also in the bottom 5 in points allowed. The T-Wolves also find themselves scoring just 106 points a game on their home court. Karl Anthony Towns is still out. Reed and Russell are questionable. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, the T-Wolves went 5-1 of the under in their last 6 contests against the Eastern Conference. So if you're into kind of quirky historical trends, not leaning in Minnesota's favor. Meanwhile, Cleveland saw 7 out of their last 9 road games stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Cavs, minus 3, and the under 218.5. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our quick pick recap, once again brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage, where we are 3-0 in our last 3 underdog tier package picks. I like the Clippers minus 7.5 under 213. I like the Jazz plus 1.5 over 220 and a hook. I like the Nets minus 7.5 over 2. Let's try that again. Nets minus 7.5 over 245.5. Pacers plus 2.5 under 225. Give me the Magic plus 6 under 221. And before I give you our next and final contest for the show, one final reminder to please smash that like button, that thumbs up button, if you enjoyed this video. You can also subscribe right now if you haven't done so already. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Cavaliers minus 3 and the under 218.5. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into some shout-outs to our top 10 commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to Carlos Lacerda, JC Alva, Dope Boy Fresh, Lion 420, Gleazy Baby 43. Shout out to Fernando Coronado, ISO the Don, Hunter AM 13. Shout out to Savage J. And last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to my good friend, Tweezy Tarantino. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. Now, you guys might have noticed that I didn't go through my Patreon rundowns here today like I normally do with every video. The reason for that is Patreon bills you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So with that in mind, if you sign up for a package here today on the 31st of January, you're going to get billed today on the 31st, and then you're going to get billed again tomorrow on February 1st. It's kind of just one of the only flaws of that Patreon platform is that they bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you think there's value in signing up today, by all means go ahead. I mean, it's still a great price point. It's very inexpensive, but keep in mind, typically your best value is to sign up on the first or earlier in the month. And I normally say that in every video toward the end of the month. So I figured I'd give you a reminder about that. But anyway, guys, if you do decide to get a package either today or tomorrow, just keep in mind all the cheaper memberships that I offer on Patreon are included with your purchase. So for example, if you end up getting the $9.99 package, all the cheaper memberships and the content that's in those cheaper memberships, you're going to get access to for free. But anyway, guys, most importantly, I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.